All right, little second segment sip as we move into segment number 2. You can always get into the mailbag, by the way, YouTube comments, X, formerly known as Twitter. If you want priority access and all sorts of other perks, go join the flock over at Subtext. That link is in the description below wherever you listen to or watch this show. So I have to eat a little bit of crow, as they say here on Locked On Ducks, and far be it from me to hide from incorrect predictions, but I have made an incorrect prediction. So when the Big Ten announced they were discussing their schedules and when games were going to be, they said, hey, we're going to utilize West Coast teams to get in the late window. And that's, a big reason why they added the LA market in the first place and went up north with Oregon and Washington as well. But I got a mailbag question from Bud asking about whether those teams, like Oregon, could be playing on Friday nights. And my takeaway was, no, I don't think so, because you're trying to have the late night window, and that's not exclusive to Friday nights. I mean, they have it, so maybe, but no, I don't think Oregon will be playing. Well, that's not the case. So 2 games have been moved to the Friday night window this year. Michigan State on October 4th against our old pal Jonathan Smith, and Purdue on October 18th, 2 weeks later. Those are both Friday night games. Look, Michigan State is not going to be very good. Oregon, of course, recently got their defensive tackle Derek Harmon. They lost 2 other defensive linemen. They're in rebuild mode. Aiden Childs, a former Oregon State 4-star and once future of the Beavs, he's their quarterback this year and is going to be allowed to do what Justin Herbert did in 2016. Grow with the team, grow with the program, make freshman mistakes, but flash some real potential. And Childs certainly is capable of doing that. I don't think the Spartans have the team to really push Oregon in a serious way at Autzen Stadium until the game got moved to Friday. Let me come back to Michigan State, because the Purdue one is actively trying to scare me. I don't know if it's succeeded yet, because Purdue was not a good team last year. Look, I've watched Purdue beat really good Ohio State teams. I have watched Purdue in, where are they? West Lafayette? I think they're in West Lafayette. Let me double check that. Yeah, they're in West Lafayette, Indiana. I have watched Purdue blast in their home stadium Urban Meyer coached Ohio State teams, which Oregon fans, as much as anyone, should understand how good those teams were. So don't tell me that it can't happen, but then it gets moved to Friday. I'm not worried about the travel logistics, playing a day earlier. That's not the concern. There is something about Friday night juice. Let me ask you this question as an Oregon fan out there. When you think Friday night football games, aside from the Pac-12 championship, which being played on a Friday is, a joke, and Oregon's in the Big Ten now, so they don't have to worry about that. What do you think about? What game? Can you think of a specific Oregon football game that was played on a Friday night? I've got one. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Love doing this here on the show. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think of one, and let's see if we arrive at the same conclusion. Honor system in the YouTube comments, or if you shoot me a note to see if we're on the same page. Friday night Oregon football game. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 2015 Arizona State. Vernon Adams, the Hail Mary, Dwayne Stanford sliding on his rear end, catching the ball in the end zone. Braylon Addison's foot may or may not have been out. We will never know, because he was in, of course, forever and always. That's what I think about. There's something about Friday night games that just... There's an old expression in baseball. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. I'm just being a little stitious here. Oregon's a much better team than Purdue. And they were a much better team than Stanford in 2021 when they went down to the farm and lost to a 3-9 Stanford team. That's all I'm saying. Not trying to get you worried about Purdue. Cannot say I have done a ton of research this offseason about the Boilermakers because they're just not expected to be very good. They lost their head coach, Jeff Brom. He went back to Louisville where he's having a lot of success. Purdue, not as successful a year ago. They were playing in the Big Ten championship game the year prior with Jeff Brom. Guy, I'm pretty sure that's right. Guy's a very good football coach. He's at Louisville over in the ACC. So, don't love that about the Purdue game because it's on the road. Now, at home, Friday night, look, I off the top of my head can't think of the last time an Autzen game was played on a Friday. I'm sure it has happened. It is not a frequent occurrence. I prefer for games to be on Saturday because that's what works best for everyone. That's what everyone's most familiar with. But certainly Friday night, USC 09 might have been on a Halloween Friday night. I could have that wrong. Let's see. What day of the week was Halloween 2009? Nope, that was a Saturday. So I think that there's just something about those Friday night games that can just be, your rhythm, your timing can be a little bit off because it's not the same day of the week. So I just put out a word of caution there. And then going back to Michigan State, they're not going to be ready to play with a team like Oregon yet. At home, the Ducks should absolutely blast the Spartans the same way Washington did a year ago in East Lansing. And if Oregon plays the way they're capable of, they show up ready to go, they should blast Purdue and West Lafayette. But I feel a lot better about that Michigan State game inside the cozy confines of Autzen than going to Boiler Country over there in West Lafayette. So, just a couple of scheduling notes there. I was wrong. Did not think we'd have not one but two games being played on a Friday this year. That's the way it goes. October 18th and October 4th. Those are now going to be Friday night games, which are sandwiched on the outside. They're the bread, and Ohio State is the meat in the middle. So it's frankly not the worst thing in the world if you think about it from that angle. It'll be 6:00 p.m. Pacific time kickoff, which is later than Michigan State's probably used to playing a college football game. But Oregon will have an extra day of rest and an extra day of prep for Ohio State the following week. So maybe it's not all bad. And then a short week to go to Purdue. There's a silver lining. Mailbag question here. This one came in from Nicholas. Might be, talking about Jeffrey Bosa here, one of the best sideline-to-sideline linebackers in the nation, but I don't see him on any top 100 lists or top 5 in position lists, but I think he has a chance to be a top linebacker drafted next year. Thoughts? If you put up an all-conference first or second team selection in the Big Ten this year, I'd have a hard time seeing you being drafted outside the top 5 to 10 at your position. Now, linebacker is not like receiver where you can have, what was Troy Franklin, wide receiver 17. He wasn't even the last one taken in the 2024 NFL draft. Linebacker isn't going to have that many guys, but still, you have 15 to 20 players at that position. I don't know how many exactly. That was kind of an estimation there. But still, I think if Bosa has the same year he had a year ago, I think he's getting drafted. Absolutely. How early he gets selected probably depends on how he performs this year. He'll have a bigger stage. He'll have bigger television audiences in some cases. Like if he goes off in the Ohio State game, that can stick in the minds of scouts because, film doesn't go anywhere, and that can make an impression and generate momentum for guys as it pertains to their NFL draft stock. So I like Jeffrey Bosa. I think he can be an NFL linebacker and get drafted, have a role in there. I'd have to talk to a draft scout to see what exactly he needs to improve upon. But, he got so much better against the run a year ago. He can get after the quarterback. He tackles well in space. He covers pretty well. He might not have like all elite traits, but he's just kind of good. He's got a high floor at everything. I think he might need to raise his ceiling in one of those areas to really, catapult himself into a third or fourth round pick, which is, I think, probably where his ceiling would be as an NFL draft pick. But certainly, no matter what, unless he just has a bomb of a year, like Mikael Wright did a couple years ago, and I think played himself out of getting drafted with his 2021 season, because I thought he was trending up to be an early to mid-round pick. then yeah, I certainly expect Jeff Bosa to be drafted this year. I am hoping that you have checked out FanDuel already. If not, then I don't know what you're waiting for. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. You can bet Oregon as an underdog. They were last time I checked against Ohio State. Why don't we double check just for safekeeping? Yep, Oregon plus 1.5 against Ohio State at home. Oregon's lost once at Autzen Stadium in the Dan Lanning era. That was to Kalen DeBoer, and I think Ryan Day is really good. He's not Kalen DeBoer, though, and Michael Penix ain't walking through that door. So I take Oregon in the points in that particular spot. You can too. Go check out FanDuel at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and our official sportsbook sponsor here at the Locked On Network.